What's up, good people? I'm Zay, and welcome back to my channel, guys. So I want to keep the theme going. Last week, I talked about economic empowerment and what we need to do to inspire change. Now, one of the things that I believe in is that in order for us to achieve economic empowerment, we need to know what our goal is. Like, what are we aiming for? And so a while back, I found a technique that helped me actually figure out like what my retirement number is. So when I tell you guys, like right now, I could tell you, my wife and I, we need a net worth of $3 million in order for us to retire. I know that number will provide us with a salary that we need for the rest of our lives, and we won't have to work another day. So if we get there, you know, we good. So today in this video, I'm gonna walk you through that exact technique and formula so you can figure out how much you need to retire. So before we get into the video, I want you to grab some paper, a pen, whatever you need, because I want you to follow along and write out your numbers as we walk through the example, because I think that's just going to be more impactful if you do it that way. Now, again, guys, if you like this video at the end and we get through everything, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, as well as don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I do videos every Sunday. You already know. So without further ado, get your paper, get your pen, and then I'll see you guys in 1 second. Okay, so step number 1, you need to list out all monthly household expenses. Now, when I'm talking about household expenses, these are things like your rent or mortgage, your utilities, groceries, if you have kids, car insurance. I want you to think of your household expenses as anything that is mandatory in order for you to maintain like the bare minimum basics in your life. Like if you need to make sure you have your car so you can get to work, you know, you got to make sure you have your lights, your water, cell phone bill, automobile insurance, like just those necessities. Those are going to be the main things that you're going to want to list out. And for this number, just use what your current, average bill is for all of that, just for this example. And so in step 1, let's just say, for example, because I'm also going to give you numbers as we walk through so you'll see how it works. Now, your numbers may be different, but let's say the person in this example, they list out their monthly household expenses, and it comes up to $2,000. So just write 2,000. All right, 2,000 right there. So I just added 2,000. So let's just say, for example purposes, this person, their household expenses is $2,000. So that's the first thing that he did. He went through, he listed out his rent, mortgage, all the stuff we talked about, and it came up to $2,000. Now, the second thing, once you get that, what you want to do is you want to take your monthly household expense total, so the 2,000, and multiply that by 12. So we're going to take 2,000 and multiply that by 12. And when you do that math, you get 24,000. And so on an annual average, this person needs at least $24,000 in order to basically pay their minimum monthly household bills. So that's step 2. So now that you know, all right, I need to at least bring in 24 grand a year in order to take care of at least my household expenses, right? So now let's move on to step number 3, because I know you're probably thinking about, well, what about food and like going out and stuff like that? Well, that's when this stuff comes into play, because those are variable expenses, and so they kind of, you have a little bit more control over them is what I would say. So in step 3, what you want to do is list out all of your monthly variable household expenses and like figure out what's the average you spend on those. So I'm talking about things like I said, your groceries, gas. So how much on average do you spend on gas? Or maybe you're a commuter, so you know you have to spend on Metro or something like that. You really want to figure out what it is you spend on food and gas. And for those who maybe like want to include eating out or clothes, this is where you would include those type of categories. So let's say, again, for example purposes, this person, an example is their monthly variable is 1,000. So they listed out, you know, what they spend for food, gas, all of that stuff, and it came out to $1,000, right? So now that he has now listed out all of his variable household expenses, it's time to move on to step 4. So step 4 is you're going to do exactly what you did in step 2. So you're going to take the $1,000 and you're going to multiply that by 12 to get your annual variable expenses total, and that would be $12,000. Right? So on average, every year this person needs $12,000 to handle their variable expenses, gas, all that type of stuff. Now the next step is, now that he's gotten his variable as well as his main household expenses, it's time to add it up. So you want to take step 2 and step 4 and add those numbers together. So your annual household was $24,000 plus variable is $12,000. So that gives you a total of $36,000 per year is what that person needs to live off. So at minimum, this person has to bring in $36,000 a year to be able to pay their household expenses and their variable expenses, right? Now, let's just say when it comes to entertainment, travel, leisurely spending, this person says, I want to be able to spend $5,000 a year on leisurely spending. So you could add that $5,000 to the $36,000. So plus $5K gives you $41K. So all in, this person needs to make an annual salary of $41,000 a year to take care of everything, leisurely spending, all type of expenses, right? Now here's the tricky part, because when we're talking about retirement, we're talking 25, maybe 30 years for some people. Maybe it's 15 to 20. It all depends on how much your savings rate is and like how fast you want to get to retirement. So with that being said, I'm just going to use the average, which is 30 years. So we're going to say this person, needs this same type of salary in 30 years. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because inflation. So this same $41,000 is not going to be $41,000 in 30 years. So we need to account for inflation, right? Now, what we're going to do to account for inflation is we're going to go to smartasset.com and we're going to use their inflation calculator. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to do a share screen now and show exactly how to use that. And we're going to figure out what this $41,000 would be in 30 years. All right, guys, we are now going to use the inflation calculator. So what you need to do is go to Google, and what you're going to do is type in, and excuse my search history. You're going to type in inflation calculator. All right, and then we're going to be looking for the best asset or the smartasset.com. So this is the inflation calculator that you're going to want to use. And so, all right, as you can see, I was already playing with it beforehand. But what you want to do, guys, is when you get here, you want to enter the number that you got from step 5. So the 41,000. And you want to make sure you change it to 2020 because that is the current year. And then you want to change what it's worth to the year you plan to retire. So an example, we use 2050. So you're going to use 2050. And then I use 1.5% for inflation. I think that's a nice solid number. You can go up if you want to kind of go high, but for example purposes, I'm going to use 1.5%. And what it does is it shows you how much this 41,000 would be worth in 2050. So basically, if you want that same $41,000 today, you need to be making $64,086. Now, for this example, I'm going to just round up and say 65 grand. So let's say 65,000 is the number that you come up with from using the inflation calculator. Excuse me. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to use this number and we're going to complete step number 7. Okay, guys, so we just finished step number 6 using the inflation calculator on smartasset.com. And we saw that the 41,000 today, 2020, would be $65,000 in 2050. Now, what we want to do in step 7 is divide that by 4%. And so 65K divided by 4% is $1.625 million. Now, most people say, well, why are you dividing it by 4%? And so I have that there, the 4% rule. And what the 4% rule is, one second, I have to sneeze. Woo. Okay, I guess I didn't have to sneeze. So what I was saying was the 4% rule. What the 4% rule states is that when you've reached a point where your net worth is X amount of number and you can safely withdraw 4% a year, that's going to, that 4% should represent the salary that you need in order to live. So like how we went through the calculations, that salary should take care of your household expenses, your variable expenses, and any spending money. So when you use the 4% rule, you should have an investment account where you can, again, comfortably take out 4% and it really doesn't hurt your principal, because here's another key. On average, the market compounds at 8% every year, or it grows 8% every year. So if you have a retirement fund that's growing annually at 8% and you're only taking 4%, then you'll basically never run out of money. And that's why the 4% rule is like so key. And a lot of people in the finance community talk about the 4% rule. Some people believe in it, some don't. I say just use it as a rule of thumb. Some people can do 3%, some people may do more, but that is what the 4% rule is in a nutshell. It just guarantees that you can withdraw the salary you need to live off of and that you will never run out of money. And once you do that, it gets you to the end. You now know what your financial independence number is. So for somebody in this example here, if they wanted to retire, they needed to basically save and invest $1.625 million, or they need their account to get there. That doesn't necessarily mean they have to save $1.6 million. It's just that you need to be investing enough to where your money is compounding, and that over time, with growth, it will eventually be worth $1.625 million. And then once you reach that point, hopefully in 30 years, right, 2050, you would then be able to retire and you can start withdrawing from that pool of money at a rate of 4% a year, and you'd be good to go. So hopefully walking through this example was helpful. Again, if you have any questions about the math, go ahead, drop a comment below, and I will definitely answer any questions that you guys have. I feel like seeing numbers and walking through it together is really helpful. Hopefully you were doing that with the paper you have. But yeah, guys, this is the formula that I used and my wife and I used in order to figure out what our salary was. So hopefully you can do the same with yours. And there you have it. Okay, guys, so there you have it. That is the exact technique and tools that I used to figure out how much money my wife and I needed to retire. So now you have the same tools and things that I used in order to figure it out. So I hope that this helps you. I hope that as we walk through the example that you are writing your numbers down. Now, I want to say, guys, do not get intimidated by your number. It is your retirement number, so it should be large. But don't be intimidated by it. You want to set your investment plan and make sure that you are doing the right things that are going to help get you there. At least now you know the goal. Like I said, the goal is to know what you're aiming for. So now you just have to start. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget, give it a thumbs up, as well as don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And until next week, stay blessed and peace out.